Hello students, today we are going to continue class 12 fourth chapter, that is the moving charges and magnetism. In the last video we had discussed about the magnetic field and the Lorentz force. In this video we are going to cover 2 points, 2 theories, that is magnetic force on a current carrying conductor and motion in a magnetic field. So the first topic that we are going to discuss about is magnetic force on a current carrying conductor. Now see, before discussing this, let me recall and remind you about the two important points that we discussed in the last video. That is about the static charges and the moving charges. Now see, I already told that for the static charge, only electric field will be producing around it. And for a moving charge, both electric field and magnetic field will be produced around it. And when a charge is put in the region of the magnetic field, then what happens? The magnetic force is exerted on that charge. But the condition is the charge which is put in the region of the magnetic field, that should be in motion. Why? Let us see with this formula. The formula of the magnetic force, that is equal to Q V vector cross D vector, that we had already seen, where Q is the charge, V velocity vector, that is the velocity of the charge, and B vector, that is the magnetic field. Now see, if the charge is stationary, right, then what happens? The velocity will be 0. If the velocity will be 0, then the force will be 0. That means for a static charge, force will not be exerted on that. There will not be magnetic force. Magnetic force will be 0. And for that reason, you have to remember this, that only a moving charge, when put in the magnetic field, the magnetic force is exerted on the charge. That is, magnetic force is exerted only on the moving charge when it is placed in the magnetic field. This is the important point you must remember. Okay, so this is the formula for the magnetic force on a moving charge, on a moving single charge. And here, now taking the theory to the next level, we are going to find the magnetic force on a current carrying conductor. Okay, now first let us see. Let us take a conductor. Okay, its length, let it be L. Okay, its cross sectional area, let it be A. Let L is equals to length of the conducting wire. A is its cross sectional area. Right? We have taken a conducting wire of length L and cross sectional area A, and current is allowed to pass through the conductor. Now here, what we need to find, that magnetic force on a current carrying conductor. That means what? These current carrying conductor should be placed in an external field. Remember, it is to be placed in an external magnetic field. So let us consider direction, that is along. Let me consider this as y-axis, this is negative y-axis, this is z-axis, right? Okay. So the current is flowing in the towards the positive y direction. So what is the direction of the current? It is in the positive y-axis, right? Then where is the electron moving? We already know the direction of the conventional current is opposite to that of the flow of the electron. That means the electrons should be moving towards the negative y-axis, right? Let us consider it be moving with the drift velocity vt, right? That we have already studied in chapter 3, that the electron moves in a current carrying conductor with the drift velocity vt. Electron is moving in this direction and current flows in the opposite direction. Okay. So now if I consider this the length of the conductor, this is the cross sectional area, right? And if there are number of electrons, let me consider there are n number of free electrons per unit volume, right? Here I have just taken one electron just to explain you that it is moving with the drift velocity along negative y-axis. Then the current that is produced due to the motion of the electron, that will be along the plus y-axis, that is the positive y direction. Okay. And if there are n number of electrons, so n is equal to what? That is the number of free electrons per unit volume. And what is the volume of this conducting wire? That will be here volume of the conducting wire. Let it be C. Here it is having cross sectional area A and length L. So its volume will be AL, right? So what will be the total number of electrons in this conducting wire, that is in this volume? The total number of free electrons in the volume AL, total number of free electrons in volume AL, that will be what? That will be NaL, right? Okay. So now I have got the total number of free electrons in the volume AL, that is NaL. Now substituting that over here, what will I get? See, Fm is equals to taking this equation as well as taking the number of free electrons NaL. Then substituting that over here, the force acting on the number of electrons, that will be, now see, in the first chapter of quantization we have studied about Q is equals to Ne, where N is what? It is the number of the charge, right? Number of the electrons or the protons, whatever we are taking, and E is the fundamental charge on that particle. So here the number of free electron is NaL and the charge on that is E. So here taking Q is equals to Ne, where N is the number of free electrons and E is the fundamental charge on that. So Q is equals to N, which is NaL, number of free electrons, and E is the charge on that. So we got N Now see, if I take this, if I write NAEB and then L cross B vector, just I am rearranging this quantities. Why? Because NAVE, that gives me what? NAVE, that we have already studied, that it is nothing but it is the current. So I can write I is equals to NAEB, that we have already studied about the current. I into L cross B vector. Here I am going to write I L vector cross B vector. Why I am writing this L vector cross B vector? Because now see, here current is in this direction and here L I am taking as the vector of the magnitude of length L. So what I am getting, the force acting on the current carrying conductor, that is equal to I L vector cross B vector. This is very important, students. You must know down this, right? Where I is nothing but current produced due to the mobile charge carriers. L vector, that is the vector of the magnitude of the length L, which is along this direction. Current is along this direction, and the B vector, that is nothing but the magnetic field. It is along the positive Z axis. Now see, if I write Fn is equals to, these are taken in the vector form, but if I take in the magnitude form, then what I need to write is Fm is equals to I L B sin theta. When resolving this cross product, instead of L cross B, I can take in the form of sin theta, that we have studied or discussed about in the 11th class. So I L B sin theta, where theta is what? It is the angle between the I and the B vector. Okay. Now see, there are certain cases. This means this is the magnitude and we need to know the direction. And we have discussed in the last lecture when we are discussing about the force exerted on a single moving charge when it is placed in a magnetic field. We use the right hand rule, right? We can use the right hand rule as well as we can take the Fleming's left hand rule. Okay. If I consider with the help of the right hand rule, then I need to take these fingers. This is taking this right hand. Okay. Taking this fingers in the direction of the magnetic field. The thumb is pointing towards the direction of the current. Then where will be the direction of the force? This is my palm and perpendicular to the palm will be the direction of the force. So where will be the force when the current is passing through this conducting wire? That is along the x-axis. That is the positive x-axis. Okay, so let me draw over here. This is the magnetic field. This is the current direction. And perpendicular to that will be the direction of the force. That is, I can say, along positive x-axis. So I hope it is clear. By using the right hand rule, the fingers should point towards the direction of the magnetic field, that you can see with this yellow chalk, that is, it is pointing towards the z-axis, and the thumb shows the direction of the current, that is, it is along the positive y-axis. Then the line which is perpendicular to the palm, that is going outwards, and that outward will be the direction of the force, and it is along the positive x-axis. Okay, so we have talked about the direction of the magnetic force as well as the force acting on the current carrying conductor, right? Let me repeat. The electrons, the current is flowing in the positive y-axis. That means electrons are moving towards the negative y-axis. If we consider the negative charges are moving towards negative y-axis, then we can consider that the positive charges are moving towards the positive y-axis. So current direction is also in this direction. The length of this conductor is taken as L. Cross-sectional area of the conductor is A. If I consider n number of free electrons in this conductor, then let me take it as n, which is the number of free electrons per unit volume. That means the total number of free electrons in this whole conductor will be what? That is the number of electrons into volume. That is n into Al. And substituting this over here in this equation, while taking, okay, you may also note down this, Q is equals to Ne, where over here n is equals to Na, and here for electron I am putting E. Okay. Because I have taken the free electrons, I can write it as negative, right? And now see, if I am taking here negative electrons, I am taking for electrons, then it should be minus Vd. Now see, minus, that means it shows the opposite direction. That means electrons are flowing in this direction and current is in this direction. So when I am substituting I instead of this term NaEV, I just need to write I, because negative sign shows opposite direction. Current flows in this direction, so when I am talking about the current, it should be in this direction. So I need to neglect over here the negative sign because it is in opposite direction. You may note down this here as well as the derivations. See, I have already said that apart from the right hand rule, we can also use the Fleming's left hand rule, right? So taking the left hand like this, right? Here the forefinger shows the direction of the magnetic field. Here the middle finger that shows the direction of the current, and the thumb points the direction of the magnetic force. That means here see, I am having magnetic field in the upward direction. This is shown by the forefinger. The middle finger that shows, which is along the positive y-axis, it shows the direction of the current, and where my thumb is pointing, that shows the direction of the magnetic force. So the direction of the force can be shown or determined with the help of Fleming's left hand rule as well as with the help of right hand rule. Now see, when we are using the Fleming's left hand rule, you must consider that it is the direction of the current, that is the direction of the positive charge. So it is important to see where you are pointing the finger. It should always be in the direction of the current, and conventional current is due to the positive charge. That means its direction is along the direction of the positive charge. That magnetic force in a current carrying wire, that is IL cross B vector, right? That means in this case we have considered the wire which is of length L, a straight wire, and we had put that in the magnetic field, the external magnetic field. Then the force acting on that wire will be IL vector cross B vector. But what if the wire is of any arbitrary shape? Then what? Suppose we consider it is of this type, right? Of this shape. Then what we need to do? We cannot take the length like this, right? Then in that case we need to consider small length elements. That means if I take only this small length element dl, then taking individual element and taking the magnetic force which is acting on this element of the wire, and if we take all the similar elements and calculate the force acting on the small elemental length of the wire and then summing that, then it can be written as F vector is equals to summation of I dl cross the vector, right? Where summation is of all the j, that is from 1 to n, whatever we are taking, how many elements you are taking depending on that. So F vector is equals to summation of I dl vector j cross the vector. Here j stands for what? It stands for the number of elements you are taking for a particular wire. That means if you are taking 10 small elements of the wire, then you can write over here 10 and taking summation 10. That means for 10 small elements you need to calculate the force acting on all these 10 elements individually and taking the summation. So you will be getting the force acting on this arbitrary shaped wire in which the current is flowing. Now see, for the force on a current carrying conductor, it is equal to F vector is equals to I L vector cross B vector. So it can also be written as I L B sin theta, where theta is the angle between the current carrying conductor having length L and the magnetic field. Okay. Now see, here we are having theta, right? That means there are 3 cases for this. Let us see one by one. Case 1, for theta is equals to 0 degree. Now see, if I put over here theta is equals to 0 degree, then F is equals to IL B sin 0 degree. This becomes what? Sin 0, that is 0. So F is equals to 0. That means if the magnetic field and the current carrying conductor both are parallel, if the current carrying conductor is parallel to the magnetic field, then there will not be any magnetic force exerting on that. That means if you are placing magnetic field like this, right, and even the current carrying conductor is placed like this with its direction of current like this, then no magnetic force is exerted on this current carrying conductor. So force is equals to 0. Now the second case, for theta is equals to 180 degree, right? Again F is equals to ILB sin 180 degree, and we know sin pi, that will again be 0. So force will be 0. Here what is the case? Theta is equals to 180 degree. That means the current carrying conductor is anti-parallel to the magnetic field. In that case also no force is exerted on that. That means if magnetic field is in this direction and the current carrying conductor, that is current is in this direction, then what? Both are anti-parallel to each other. There will be 180 degree angle between the two. In that case also no magnetic force is going to be exerted on the wire. So for theta is equals to 0 degree or for theta is equals to 180 degree. That means if B and IL both are parallel to each other or both are anti-parallel to each other, in both the cases no magnetic force is exerted on that. Magnetic force will be 0. Now what is the third case? Let us see case 3, that is for theta is equals to 90 degree. For theta is equals to 90 degree, F is equals to IL B sin 90 degree. And what is sin 90 degree? That is 1. So I can write F is equals to IL B. In this case, the force is maximum. It is very important to note down. no magnetic force exerted on the current carrying conductor. That is, the magnetic force is 0. Now see, now we are going to the next topic, that is motion in a magnetic field. So here we have considered the external magnetic field, and this cross sign indicates what? That the direction of the magnetic field is into the paper, into the plane of the paper, that is inside, right? Okay. Now suppose see, here we place a charge over here. That I have already says that for a static charge, when it is placed in a magnetic field, no magnetic force exerts on that. Only a moving charge, when it is placed in a magnetic field, then and only then the magnetic force exerts on that. It is very important to remember. When charge is placed on the magnetic field, it should be in motion, then and only then the magnetic force is exerted on it. So if a charge, when it is placed in the magnetic field region, and if it is moving with its velocity v, suppose in this direction, right, and magnetic field direction is into the plane of the paper, then what will be the force direction? The force direction will be like this, according to the right hand rule, right? Taking velocity in this direction, the magnetic field in this direction, then the force will be in the upward direction, that is perpendicular to the palm. Okay. So what happens? Charge is trying to move in this direction and magnetic force is exerted in upward direction. So the charge is not allowed to move in its straight path, but instead, due to magnetic force, it gets tilted into upward direction, a slight tilt. It gets drifted like this. So when it moves further, then that charge will not be in the same line, but it gets tilted in somewhat upward direction. So let us take this case that the charge is drifted up to here, right? Then again it is moving with its same velocity, that is velocity v. Then the velocity is in this direction, again applying the right hand rule. Now you can see like this, velocity is where it is in this direction and magnetic field is inside. Then where will be the magnetic force exerted? It is perpendicular to the palm. That means the magnetic force exerted over here will be in this direction. So what happens? Now the charge is trying to move in this path, right? But the magnetic force is exerted on the charge inwards. So what happens? The charge, instead of going in the same path along which it gets tilted bit inwards. So let us take this case that the charge has come little inwards over here. Again it is moving with its velocity v. So again applying the right hand rule, see, like this. Velocity is in upward direction, magnetic field is in inside that along the fingers. Then the palm rule, that is the perpendicular line up to the palm, that is like this. So this direction shows the force direction. So what happens? The charge which is going with its velocity in particular path, it is not allowed to continue to the same path because of the magnetic force that is exerted on that. So when it moves, the path that it is covering takes somewhat like this, that is, it takes the circular path. So when a charge is moving with velocity v and when it is placed in a magnetic field, then the path taken by that is the circular path due to the magnetic force exerted on that charge. So we can say that the magnetic force is generated due to the centripetal force over here. So the magnetic force provided by the centripetal force, the magnetic force provided by the centripetal force can be written as mv square by r is equal to, we know the centripetal force is mv square by r, where m is the mass of the particle, v is the velocity with which the particle is moving, and r is the radius of that circular path. So here I have considered Then let this be the radius r. Then the centripetal force is equal to the magnetic force. So magnetic force here is equals to BQV, where B is the magnetic field, Q is the charge which is moving along the circular path, and V is the velocity of that charged particle. Okay. So from this equation, that is the magnetic force provided by the centripetal force. So mv square by r, which is the centripetal force, this is the magnetic force. Why we are neglecting the sin theta? Because BQV sin theta, here theta is equals to 90 degree, right? The B and V velocity is like this, and the magnetic field direction which is perpendicular to this B. In every case, you can see over here, B is in this direction and magnetic field, see, B is in this direction, magnetic field is inside that. So in every case, at every point on this circle, the velocity and the magnetic field both are perpendicular to each other. So sin 90 degree, that will be 1, and so we are writing into V, because sin theta is equals to 90 degree and sin 90 equals to 1. So instead of BQV sin theta, we are simply writing BQV. So cancelling this, what we are having? mv by r equals to BQ. Then what will be the radius of this circular path? That means if a charge is moving with particular velocity, then what will be the circular path? Will it be of radius, say 1 meter or like 10 centimeter, whatever? What will be the length of the radius? That can be determined by this equation, taking r over here and BQ in this denominator term. So we get r equals to mv upon BQ, right? So we can get the radius of the circular path that is covered by the charge when it is placed in the magnetic field region. That means what circular path it will be covering, that you can know by this equation. The centripetal force provided by the magnetic force, that is equal to this, and mv by r equals to BQ, and taking r as the subject, taking all the other terms on the other side, r is equals to mv by BQ, we will be getting the radius of the circular path of the charge which is moving along that. You may copy down this. So here r is the radius of the circular path which is covered by the charge, and you can see over here mv, that is product of the mass and the velocity, that is nothing but momentum. So this equation can be written in terms of momentum as r is equals to p upon BQ. Now see, here we are having a circular path in which the charge is moving. So what will be the time taken by the charge to complete one revolution? And we already know that the time taken to complete one revolution, that is called as periodic time. So here we will be calculating the time taken by the charge to complete the one revolution, and we will be doing that with the help of the formula, that is speed is equals to distance upon time taken. So let us consider v as the speed of the charge, d is the distance, that means over here the distance covered by the charge, that is the circumference of the of the charge, time taken by the charge to complete one revolution. Now, if we are getting this periodic time, we can also calculate the frequency, and we know that frequency is the reciprocal of the periodic time. We can write F is equals to 1 upon T. So, that is equal to, we just need to take the reciprocal of this periodic time. So, it is dq upon 2 pi n. So, F is equals to dq upon 2 pi n, which is nothing but the frequency of the charged particle. So, we got the radius of the circular path in which the charge is moving. We can calculate the periodic time, that is time taken by the charged particle to complete one revolution. And if we are getting the periodic time, we can also calculate the frequency. So, these all formulas are important when we are solving the numericals. So, you may copy it down.